All right, so first thing we're going to try and do is teach you about limited exam. In a lot of these cases, you're going to have to try and read between the lines because a lot of what I'm going to try and say is really learned on the job. And after you get some exposure, if you go back and look at these videos, you'll probably be able to see a lot going on there that you didn't see before. But the first thing we're going to try and go through is a limited exam. So limited exam is kind of the I don't know what's going to happen when they come in type of experience. You get some kind of an indicator from the people that are in the front desk. So if you look at this appointment here from that we have for Mickey Mouse, what will happen is you'll see the patient's name, Mickey Mouse here. You'll see limited exam is what they're coming in for. And sometimes the people that answer the phone and will write down and make the appointment will give us a little indicator as what's going on. Here we have Mickey Mouse who's got a tooth that's growing out of his ear. So this is probably something you're going to try and cover in your morning huddle. So when you're meeting together, if the patient is already scheduled for the day, this will be a good opportunity for you to inquire of the DDS what's going to happen that day with the x-rays. So you'll say, hey, Mickey Mouse has got a tooth growing out of an ear. What kind of x-ray do you want? And if he says, well, I don't know, I have to take a look first and then get an x-ray, then you're in the clear. But if he says, well, I think we probably want to get a panoramic x-ray of Mickey Mouse's ear, then you're saying, all right, that sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and do that. So this is kind of what a limited exam will look like on the schedule and where you'll be. The next thing that we're going to try and do is, so this will be the first thing you do, is try and make sure you know what x-ray needs to be done. Then once you've gotten that x-ray and you know exactly what you're going to try and get up against when the patient comes in the door, very first thing you're going to do for every patient is update their medical history and take blood pressure. Have you been to the hospital recently? Are you taking any medications? Those types of things. The next thing you're going to ask is, so what's going to happen? Well, you know, Mr. Mickey Mouse, you've got this tooth growing out of your ear. Tell me a story. Tell me what's happening. And then in that response, you're going to hear a lot of different things. You'll hear, you know, my tooth started growing out of my ear, you know, 2 weeks ago. Timeline things you're going to try and make note of. So my tooth started growing out of my ear 2 weeks ago. And then he'll say it's been hurting, you know, every off and on for the last 2 weeks, but really last night it was killing me. So little things like that you're going to try and write down. When you write down their chief complaint, you'll notice it'll be in the chart. Once it's set complete, you'll be able to go to it, which we might come back to this since my computer is running a little slow. Maybe not. So you go to the limit exam. Once you've double clicked on that, and we'll be going over how to enter in notes later, but you'll hit auto note, and the very first thing that pops up when you have a limited exam is you'll have text prompt and it'll say enter chief complaint. And here you're going to write down tooth started growing out of, you know, growing out of ear 2 weeks ago. This you really want to try and have quotation marks because you really want to say what they've done word for word. Now this you won't be able to enter in right away, but that's what you're going to enter in when you complete the notes. Okay, so let's go back to where we are now. So once you've gotten the chief complaint, gotten a little backstory from the patient, then you can go to the doc and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. His tooth started growing out of his ear a couple weeks ago. It's been kind of, you know, pain off and on, and last night it's just really killing him. So it gives them kind of an update. At this point, the doc may say, well, we're going to need a panoramic x-ray, or he may say, well, let me take a look, and then I'll tell you which type of x-ray to get. Most of the time, you'll tell the DDS and write down what they're saying, but when the doctor comes in, they start telling almost a different story. And so this is when you're going to be by the computer typing in notes as the doctor's kind of talking. So that way you can get kind of a glimpse of what's happening, and then you can kind of go from there. So then the doctor is probably going to take a look. He'll have a Mirror and Explorer available for them. So that's really the only thing that you have out right away. And then he may ask you to grab some other things, but that's where we start out, is making sure that you have the Mirror and the Explorer. Once you're done, he may say, well, you've got some options here. And then this is when you're going to be kind of ready to enter all this into the computer. So say he's got a toothache. There's going to be a lot of different options. One, he's going to say, well, you can either take out the tooth, and then you'll treatment plan in the computer. Say it's tooth number 3. They said tooth number 3, we can either take it out, so you can treatment plan that. Well, we can do a root canal and a crown on it, and then you can treatment plan a root canal and a crown on number 3. And then he's going to ask, well, if you do end up taking it out, you can replace it either with an implant or a bridge, etc., etc. And if you want to kind of hold back a little bit in writing down or treatment planning in the open dental what's going on, you can do that. Or you can kind of treatment plan as you go. As the patient's starting to talk, you're probably going to get some indicators. Well, I really want to try and save my tooth, doc. Then you're going to be looking more towards just doing treatment planning or root canal. But if he says, hey, I want to take it out, then you're going to be treatment planning taking it out, and then we're going to be looking at replacing it somehow, either with an implant or a bridge or a partial or something like that. So at this point, you just really want to be geared up to recording a lot of the treatment in the in the notes. The next steps are going to be just sequencing the treatment. After you kind of get more feedback from the patient, more financials are done, and the docs and the patient are kind of getting on the same page, and there's really something that's coming down to the wire. Yep, I'm going to have my tooth pulled and I'm going to get an implant. At that point, you can kind of sequence the treatment, and that's something that we'll go over in another video, but then you'll show which appointments are going to go where. And then if the patient wants that treatment done today, then we start getting deeper into financials, and this is when the patient says, hey, I want to have my tooth out and I want to have my implant today. And then the doc will say, all right, well, this is what we're going to do. You're going to have to hang out for a little bit of time, and this is how much it's going to cost. And this is where you come in. The dental assistant or the patient experience specialist will go to the front and tell the front office, hey, this is what they're looking at doing, and the front office will have a better story of what their insurance covers, et cetera, and together you can figure out what the out-of-pocket for the patient will be that day. Sometimes the front office will have time to talk to them. Sometimes it'll be the treatment coordinator, which will be ideally who it is, but sometimes you'll be the one to tell them, and sometimes it'll be the dentist. But you'll be able to give them the idea of what the treatment cost is going to be that day if they want to try and get it done that day. And then you'll be finished up. And then if they are going to get it done that day, that's when the assistant will be prepared to set up for whatever is going to come down the pipe. So, which usually in the first case, you'll grab some anesthetic, you get the patient numb, and then we wait for the patient to get numb while you get everything else set up. If they don't end up getting it done that day, then you're going to be looking at scheduling them for their next appointment. So say they are going to get their tooth taken out, but it's too infected to take out now, so they're going to be put on antibiotics and come back later. Then you would be in charge of printing off the antibiotics and then scheduling them for their next appointment, and then go from there. So if there's not enough time, you'll schedule them for their next appointment. So that's kind of really the end of the limited exam. You're going to come across a lot of these. This is a general outline of how it works. You'll confirm everything. You'll get their chief complaint. You'll tell the doc, make sure all the x-rays are done, record the chief complaint in the notes. The exam will be done by the doc after the doc and the patient decide, and you've kind of treatment planned and sequenced everything in the computer. We found out how much it is. Then you'll schedule them for their next appointment, or you'll try and get it done that day. Anyway, so hopefully that was a big help for you, and we'll look forward to chatting with you on our next video there.
Anything else, homie?
No, I think that's it.
All right. We have a good night.
Yeah,
See you
thanks so
next
much.
week.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.